Hello, my name is Escalante, and this project is for Nutrition 230 on preventing cardiovascular disease. How does fiber prevent cardiovascular disease? What even is cardiovascular disease? It is the range of conditions affecting the heart and blood vessels. It is influenced by diet, lifestyle, and risk factors such as high cholesterol and blood pressure. There are other key risk factors such as smoking, diabetes, being overweight, and an unhealthy diet. Physical inactivity and excessive alcohol use can also be contributors. It is the leading cause of death for people of most racial and ethnic groups in the United States. I'm probably sure that you've heard that there's a lot of people that have been affected by heart disease in the United States. Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. Every 33 seconds, a person dies from cardiovascular disease. And coronary heart disease is the most common type. It is affecting 1 in 20 adults aged of 20 or older. This is about 5% of the population. This image is presented to us by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, known as the CDC. It shows the heart disease rates on the time of 2018 to 2020 for adults ages 35 and over. We can see that there are many people in the United States that they are affected by cardiovascular disease. This table shows the cardiovascular disease in the United States by population. It was obtained from the American Heart Association. The data collected was from 2017 to 2020, and it was for people of 20 years or older. It shows that 48.6% of the population was affected by CVD. This cost was $422.3 billion. How can we help to prevent this disease? What is the role in fiber for reducing this disease? There have been many studies that show that dietary fiber contributes significantly to cardiovascular health by lowering cholesterol levels and controlling blood pressure, as well as reducing inflammation. Another study has shown that for every 10 grams of additional fiber added to a diet, the mortality risk of CVD can be decreased by 17 to 35%. Another study has shown that soluble fibers have been shown to increase the rate of bile accretion and reduce cholesterol. But is this really true? Yeah, of course it is. There have been many research studies that sustain this claim, and I'll show you 3. The first study was the association between dietary fiber and serum C-reactive protein. Serum C-reactive protein is a protein made by the liver, and it is a marker of inflammation recently recognized as an independent predictor of future coronary heart disease. The participants of the study were between the ages of 20 and 70, and they were recruited by the Fallen Healthcare System, which is a health maintenance organization in central Massachusetts. The overall objective of the study was to examine the both cross-sectional and longitudinal relations of total dietary fiber with C-reactive protein. The way they gathered this information was through registered dietitians via telephone, measured the body mass index, smoking, physical activity, infection status, and total energy consumption of the participants. C-reactive protein was measured through blood samples that were taken at baseline and after 4 quarterly visits. The results were that they found inverse associations between the total dietary fiber, soluble fiber, and insoluble fiber and C-reactive protein. As we can see in this table, the more dietary fiber consumed, the least likelihood of an elevated C-reactive protein concentration. These results were for both water-soluble and insoluble dietary fiber. The second study was that additional fiber added to the diet can decrease the mortality risk of CHD. The effects of recent and long-term dietary fiber intakes on mortality were investigated in the SUDFEN study. It was a study done on 1,373 men that were born between 1900s and 1920s, and they were examined repeatedly between the 1960s until the 2000s. Out of all the participants, 1,130 men died, and 348 of these were a result of coronary heart disease. What they discovered is that for every 10 grams of additional fiber added to a diet, the mortality risk of CHD decreased by 17 to 35%. Our third study was a high-fiber diet and acetate supplementation on the gut to prevent hypertension and heart failure in mice. This experiment was an animal study that was made in male mice, and they were randomly assigned to one of several diet intervention groups. There was a control diet, a high-fiber diet, and an acetate supplementation diet. Their gut microbiome, cardiorenal structure, and blood pressure were all examined. The mice were induced to cardiovascular disease through surgery after 3 weeks of being on this rigorous diet. Sham and DOCA were the two ways that the results were studied. And we can tell by this graph that there is a difference between the control and the fiber and acetate diet. We can see a great difference in the systolic blood pressure, the diastolic blood pressure, and mean arterial pressure. There isn't much change between the kidney body weight or the lung body weight. The results were that high consumption of fiber helped modify their gut microbiome population. There was more acetate-producing bacteria, which aids in their digestion. There was also reduced systolic and diastolic blood pressure, cardiac fibrosis, and left ventricular hypertrophy. Now that we know that fiber can aid in reducing or preventing cardiovascular disease, what even is fiber? Fiber is a carbohydrate that resists digestion and absorption in the small intestine. It may undergo microbial fermentation in the large intestine. It consists primarily of just complex carbohydrates that are not fully broken down in the small intestine. Since it cannot be digested, it just increases the weight and size of our stool as well as softening it. It is easier to pass and it lowers the chance of constipation. This is why it is great for digestion. In this table, we can see the components of dietary fiber according to the American Association of Cereal Chemists. These are many of the components of dietary fiber, but I will show you and give you more information of the ones that play an important role in improving human health. We can find fiber in arabinoxolin, which is a hemicellulose found primarily in the cell walls of cereal grains, especially in wheat. It is found in the wheat bran, whole wheat, rye, and oats. Another one is inulin, which is a soluble fiber made up of fructose monomers found in onions and garlic. It can also be found in artichoke leeks, bananas, and wheat. Beta-glucagon is a soluble fiber found primarily in cereal grains. It can also be found in oats and barley. Pectin is a water-soluble polysaccharide that is mostly found in citrus fruits such as oranges, lemons, grapefruits, and also apples. It forms gels in thickened solutions. Cellulose is a structural fiber that is found in the cell wall of plants. It is mostly water-insoluble and found in green vegetables. It is inert to digestive enzymes in the small intestine. Our last one is resistant starch, which is any starch that is not digested in the small intestine. It has a sensory feel of refined carbohydrates. This image shows foods that are high in fiber, and you can use this for future reference. I hope that now when someone brings up dietary fiber, you can tell them that it is a carbohydrate that resists digestion and absorption, and it may or may not undergo microbial fermentation. A diet that is high in fiber can lead to many health benefits as it changes the gut microbiota and it plays a protective role in the development for cardiovascular disease. The mechanism as to why this happens is still unclear, but we might think that this is because of the increasing bile acid excretion, the decreased caloric intake, or the binding to cholesterol. Thank you for watching, and remember, To increase your fiber intake.